Welcome to another installment of Well Read. My first flip-throughs, read-throughs, whatever you want to call them, were all based on video game magazines. But today, we're doing something a little special. It's Wizard! For those of you who do not know what Wizard is, it is primarily it was a comic book magazine where they cover the comic industry news and the releases, and they'd have a lot of the same contents that a video game magazine would, but just for comics. It does cover other things as well, like movies and video games to a very small degree, usually if it's related to comic books. So this one here is the February 2000 issue. There you go. And it's also issue 101. On the cover, we have everyone's favorite Tomb Raider. She goes by the name of Tomb Raider. It says here, Top Guns, Tomb Raider conquered comics. Will Metal Gear and Final Fantasy follow? Who knows? Well, this was 20 years ago, 23 years ago, so I guess we'll know. We do know by now that they did not. And then we got here, Who, The? What's this guy doing here? Find out inside. We will. And it's the Monster 2000 preview. The It Comics, Toys and Movies of Y2K. Now, for those of you who are too young to know this, Y2K was when the world ended in 2000 and we had to rebuild society from the top down. It probably hasn't gotten into the history books yet. There you go. Yikes, hide the women and children. I guess it's because there's a monster. And will the X-Men movie deliver? Deliver what? And I like this artwork here. This looks like it's done by Andy Park. He did a lot of artwork and covers for the Tomb Raider comic book series. So another terrific job by Andy Park there. And this is cover 2 of 2, so I don't know what the first... actually, I think it might say inside what the first cover was. Top Cow Comics. I wonder why they call themselves Top Cow. Like, I've heard of Top Dog, but why Top Cow? And if you can even see here, they even, like, go all out with a world in the shape of in the color of a dairy cow with udders. I don't know. We got some sort of promotion for Marvel Comics here. The home of heroes, Marvel Comics. I guess these are the issues coming out soon. And then we have Avalon Studios. Don't know them. We got here 3 titles. Jin the Wicked and Area Angela. And I like the artwork here for Jin. So here are the Wizard contents. We don't need to really go through that. Oh, there you go. There's the cover. The first cover was Punisher. So yeah, I think I got the right cover. So here we got this month's episode, Baby New Year. And I found this a little odd because this is the New Year baby, but it's the February issue. Shouldn't this have been for the January issue? Was there no January issue? Like, why would you bring out the New Year baby in February when New Year's Day is in January? And so this big-headed guy over here, he's doing a spoof on, I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's name. Uatu, I don't know. Uatu, the Watcher from Marvel Comics. He's got a giant head and all he does is watch. Watch and interfere. So here's the letter section called Magic Words. We got one here from Matt Garvey asking about why didn't the Submariner and Scarlet Witch, how come when they jumped into Onslaught, they didn't make him stronger? Because he thought mutants only made him stronger, and they're mutants. And then Jim replies here with, mutants? Well, you're half right. Roseman says the Submariner isn't a mutant. He's a human Atlantean hybrid. So that was true. He was born with his abilities. It's because of a hybrid nature, not random genetic mutation. And I went to Marvel.com's character profile for Namor, and the very first line of the first paragraph, it says, the hybrid mutant son of an Atlantean and a human. So Marvel.com seems to contradict what Czar Roseman says here, but I was surprised that it didn't have Namor's pronouns on his profile. I mean, how am I supposed to know how he identifies if you don't give me his pronouns? Gee. Am I just supposed to assume, like some sort of savage? And down here, there's an article, well, not an article, but a letter asking about does Japan not really have an American comics market? Like, is there not much of a market for American comics over there? And yeah, he's just saying they usually stick to homegrown stuff. And it's kind of funny. Like, it says here, the only top-selling stuff is Spawn, X-Men, Witchblade, but they still... He says, I don't think there's an American comic in the top 200 sellers in Japan. And that's Matt Hawkins. He works for Top Cow or something. Or he handles the licensing for Top Cow and other publishers. And he says he doesn't think there's an American comic in the top 200. And now manga is huge over here. It's overtaking the American market because the American comic industry kind of really totally sucks. So this guy here has a points out that Spider-Man has been on the cover of Wizard a lot, and he asks how many times. And they reply saying here that, all in all, that's 16 webheads on our cover. And even though Spidey ain't quite Ricky Martin-esque cover boy, he has made many an appearance on mags out in the real world. Remember when Ricky Martin was a big deal and wasn't gay? Over here for the Watcher Award, the letter of the month, there's a guy here saying that he waited in line to get Michael Turner's autograph. And I guess he got it. And it's really sad about Michael Turner, because he was one of my favorite artists back then. He was the artist and creator for Michael Turner's The Fathom. And unfortunately, he died in 2008 at the age of 37 from bone cancer. It's really too bad. He was a very talented guy. And it's just sad when anyone has to go that young, especially to something like that. This guy here asks why Alex Ross is changing the Bat logo, and Alex Ross says it's part of color and contrast. Batman is supposed to meld into shadows. He shouldn't have any bright elements on his costume to draw attention, because there are some Batmans that had the yellow in his logo, and he makes a good point. But the other thing here is that more important to Ross is that came around the Batman TV series from the 1966 Adam West show, and DC Comics realized they couldn't trademark a bat, so they made a bat with an oval around it. So the whole reason for the yellow logo with the yellow background is for merchandising. And Ross says that's not a good reason to change a powerful, iconic look, and that's not a reason I want to honor. And that's a good point. And that's the thing, I didn't realize that until I read this here. And here's a letter from John Welsh. He has a theory about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being a metaphor, an allegory for the way we look at art. Turtles they represent artistic society. Shredder represents art critics and their oppression placed upon the creative mind. And then Splinter is the old master artist that the new artists look for guidance. And Jim, I guess, actually went to Kevin Eastman, one of the co-creators of the Ninja Turtles, to get his take on that. And he said, I'd like to put it on a t-shirt someday, if it would fit. But then he just confirms that the Turtles are just what they appear to be, a simple parody of the comics popular at the time. TMNT made its debut in 1984, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of the X-Men and the Ninjas in Daredevil. And the Ninjas in Daredevil were the hand, and in Ninja Turtles they're called the Foot Clan. I did find it kind of interesting when I was looking into Kevin Eastman, and it says right here, well, I guess this is why I kind of looked into it, because it says here he was married to Julia Strain. And the reason they were married from 1995 to 2006, and I just found that notable because I had just been recently watching some of her cheesy 90s B movies that she was in, called Enemy Gold and The Dallas Connection. And yeah, her acting was pretty terrible in them. But it turns out she was actually a Penthouse model. In fact, she was the 1993 Penthouse Model of the Year, and was nicknamed the Queen of B movies for having appeared in over 100 of them. So she had, I guess they had met because she had modeled for him, and I guess she also modeled for other comic artists. And she also has ties to the heavy metal franchise. You know, it's just weird to think though that the creator of the Ninja Turtles was married to a Penthouse model, and pretty notable one as well. And it's her autobiography was called, because she was apparently kind of tall there, 6'1", and her autobiography is called 6'1" and Worth a Climb, which is how an MC in the Dallas Connection describes her. Unfortunately, she did pass away 2 years ago in 2021 at the age of 58. There's also a survey over here that's asking, which Marvel Knights Wave 2 book are you looking forward to the most? First, by far, was The Punisher by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, at 52%. The next one was A Mystery Project by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee at 12%. I don't know if I already said 12, but I may have said it three times now. And based on my extensive research, I came to the conclusion that project was Sentry. My reasons for that conclusion, they both worked on it. It came out in 2000, and it was part of the Marvel Knights imprint. And the Marvel Knights imprint focused more on mature themes aimed at teenagers, but it wasn't as adult-oriented as the Marvel's Max imprint. And then the Ant-Man book Up Here by Bob Gale and Phil Winslade was a one-shot with the super mature themed name of Ant-Man's Big Christmas. And for you MCU fans wondering if it was Scott Lang's Ant-Man, it was not. It was Hank Pym, the original, the OG. And over here we got some letter art here. And I guess the winner, they won a bust of Marv from Sin City. And so we got this kind of, that one's not bad. You got Spider-Man Unlimited and Batman Beyond. I like this one here. The original X-Men, except for that Beast is already got his fur, and Angel's already been turned into Archangel, and, from Apocalypse. And this was the winner here, the Legion of Doom. It's pretty good too. Not sure which one I like better. So over here in Wizard News and Notes, they're talking about the opening of Guerrilla Comics. It was a super successful publisher. It launched in 2000, and it closed 1 year later in 2001. Over here in the Buzzbin, I got Hot to Trot, Harley. Rumors that Harley Quinn, the Batman animated cartoon spawned villain, will get her own ongoing series have been confirmed. Carl Kessel has signed on to write the series with Terry Dodson producing art. Terry Dodson, he's a good artist too. I like him. And yes, that did come out in December of 2000, and I'm guessing it was her first solo book because it says, "At last, in her own monthly comic," above the title of the first issue. And down here in They Said It, you got Garth Ennis. He's saying, "The whole purpose of the story was to draw as many people as possible falling into mounds of Tyrannosaurus crap. There is very little high art in Hitman." And it says, writer Garth Ennis on the dinosaur-filled Hitman 44 to 46. And I was thinking, Hitman video game franchise. And I was just like, I don't know much about that. I've seen the movies, but that does not strike me as a series that takes place in, like, would have time travel or some sort of reason for there to be dinosaurs in this franchise. And sure enough, I looked into it, and it's just a completely unrelated series called Hitman. So under here on a 4-play, Chris Claremont is returning to the X-Men, so that leaves an opening to write for the Fantastic Four. And so they have several writers here: Chuck Dixon, Jeff Loeb, Carl Kessel, Ron Mars, Carlos Panacho, and Warren Ellis giving their thoughts on writing for the Fantastic Four. You got Jeff Loeb here saying, "I'd write it for $1. And I'm just thinking, well, I think today's Marvel writers would be happy with $1. It'd be a pay raise. And then over here we got Monster Changes in Avengers 27, which I think the next page is here. Yes. So here they go. They talk about the odds of who's going to stay on the team. You got Captain America. His odds are even. Wonder Man 2-1, Giant Man 3-1, Wasp 3-1, Quicksilver 5-1, Captain Marvel 6-1, Hulk 8-1, Silverhawk 10-1, Thor 15-1, Iron Man 15-1, Scarlet Witch 25-1, and Hal Jordan 10,000-1. So I looked into the issue to see how close they were. But on here they don't even mention that Firestar or Justice were already on the team, but they do take a leave of absence. So those two are off. They were also dead wrong about Cap and Wonder Man staying on the roster and Iron Man and Scarlet Witch leaving it. And not only does Scarlet Witch stay, but she takes over as leader of the team. They were right, though, with Giant Man and the Wasp coming back, but Giant Man does go back to his old handle, which, I mean, Giant Man was his original, and, well, I guess Ant-Man was his original handle, of Goliath. He likes to change his names a lot. And they were also right about Thor leaving. So they only got 2 out of 7 of the roster spots right. And so the rest of the roster ended up being the Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, Goliath, and Wasp. And then they had She-Hulk, Triathlon, and Warbird filling in the last 3 spots. So I was looking through that issue, and they had this character called Dwayne Freeman, and he's the Avengers Federal Security Liaison. And he talks about protesters wanting more minority representation on the team. And I was like, wow. So the roots of wokeness go back further than I thought. You got protesters demanding a superhero team fill their ranks based on identity over qualifications way back in 2000. Tony Stark then gives an amazing speech to Dwayne saying, and I'll put up the image of the from the comic. "We've talked about this before. We don't recruit for skin color. The Avengers aren't about equal representation. The squads are too small for that. We're about getting the job done, and that's it. We've had minority members for years, from black and Hispanic heroes to gypsies and mythological gods. We'd never exclude anyone, because of their race." Then Dwayne says he knows, but they have to deal with the protests. So then Tony says, "No quotas, Dwayne." And I'm like, again, wow. I was like, you'd never hear Tony Stark or any Marvel hero saying something like that nowadays unless it was a villain. In fact, they'd probably say the exact opposite today. It'd be like, Tony'd be like, "Listen, Dwayne, diversity and representation matter. In fact, they're the only things that matter. We have a small roster of 5 to 8 members, so you better find me candidates that fill a lot of different check boxes. I'm talking about 5 check boxes per candidate at minimum. And since I'm a white man talking down to a black man, I'm going to apologize for my racism, white supremacy, and white fragility. I'm also going to check my straight white male privilege by resigning my position on the team. Be sure to fill it with a gay, black, non-binary, trans Muslim, or we're going to have a problem." But then back to the comic, Tony then goes on to say, the public looks up to the Avengers, and it's better if we're more representative of society. I just rather it happen naturally. That's why I hear the words forced diversity a lot over the last like 5 to 7 years, because you're just trying to you cram people diversity in instead of just letting it happen organically. Dwayne then goes on to say the founding Avengers are white and that most recruited afterwards are as well, and asks if they're unconsciously doing that. Tony says he doesn't know and he hates to think that they were, but that he still hates the idea of making race a criteria. Again, like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe that, like, this is stuff you would not hear in today's comics, in Marvel Comics. And it's like, again, like a third time, wow. It's just like, never would you hear any character in any mainstream IP ever say something sensible like that now. I still can't believe they were having this conversation in the comics over 20 years ago. Dwayne then suggested Tony to first ask old members who are minorities to rejoin the Avengers before asking the white ones. And then when Jan and Hank are the first to agree to come back, Dwayne thinks to himself, 2 more white faces, and another coming. And when Cap called Falcon to rejoin, he said, sorry Cap, I sympathize and all, but I played Earth's mightiest token once, and I'd rather not do it again. So all in all, they only had 1 visible minority on the roster, but the women did outnumber the men 4-3, so progress. And for some reason I'm not sure about, Hal Jordan wasn't asked to join the team. So here they have Alex Ross drawing and painting, and I guess this was in a previous issue, and they made the colossal mistake of putting a whole bunch of logos on it. I don't know how much it was covering it, so they decided to reprint the image without any of the logos on it, just so that people could see what it looks like. And if you've never seen his work before, that's what he looks like. That's what his work looks like. He's a phenomenal artist. And over here in news and notes, more news and notes, company updates. Image Comics. The fecal menace known as Cesspool strikes in February's Savage Dragon 72. Writer-artist Eric Larson provides the toilet paper. And I just thought that was kind of fitting because Eric Larson is also quite the fecal menace. Up here we have Chewie Takes Last Bite. So this was like I think a 4-part miniseries of the death of Chewie, and they go to all the different characters, I guess telling like stories, favorite stories about him or something like that. And he dies, well, you know, if you don't want to hear it, you know, just plug your ears for 20 seconds. Because he dies, I think, on a planet that's about to explode or something, trying to save people on it as the Falcon takes off and he can't make it back on or something. And I think I heard this years and years ago about this, but I thought it was in a book, the novel they did it too. So I'm not sure if it was just in the comic, but I thought it was in one of the novels. Down here, they're thumbing off. They got their thumbs up and their thumbs down. Here they got Falcon's new costume. And they said they say he's back in action, but his new duds look horrific. And so I'm not sure which one they were looking at, because it says the armored look doesn't suit the Winged Avenger at all, and what happened to his afro and Red Wing. And so I'm not sure. I'll put up an image of what I thought was the one they were talking about, and I thought it looked pretty good, especially compared to his older costumes. So I don't know if that is the one they're talking about, and I don't know why they don't like it. But it was, I believe, the one from Captain America Volume 3, number 25. And then over here in double takes, there's some panels here from Green Lantern 120. And initially when I saw this, I thought that was She-Hulk. And then I saw the Green Lantern ring, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And that's what they're trying to ask here, is they're talking to the writer from Green Lantern, Ron Mars, if that's Donna. And he's like, yes, it's definitely Donna. And they say coloring errors happen here and there, but the ongoing love triangle between Kyle, Donna, and Jade, who's actually got green skin, made this particularly snafu confusing. And then he says, the Mars goes on to say that they're going to clear up the conundrum in a later issue, saying we're actually going to explain it. It's definitely Donna. As to why she's green, it will be explained. And so I decided to go through the following issues to find if they explain that, and they don't. Like I skimmed through like a year's worth of comics or more, and I don't think she appeared in any of them. And the only green-skinned character I could find was this one called Jen, who is Jade. Jen and Jade are the same person. So I really think, unless they explain it in like another comic series, like what was she in, like Titans or something, Teen Titans? So unless they explained it in a different series, I think this was just a huge coloring mistake, and they were just trying to save face about it. Because I also looked online to asking why did Donna Troy's skin turn green, but I couldn't find any articles or in her like profile entries on any of her fan pages or whatever mentioning her skin turning green. So I believe this is just a total mistake. And here for Century 21, 6 new players joined the comics field. So I decided to go through them all to see how many of these lasted and if they're still around today. And Cross Generation Comics closed in 2004, and they were the assets were acquired by Walt Disney Company. I couldn't find a lot of information on AAA Pop Comics, but comics.org says that it operated from 2000 to 2006, and they seem to have only published 25 comics over 6 series in that time, so that's not a lot. Black Bull Entertainment operated from 2000 to 2005. Broadsword Comics, it seems to still be operating, but they don't publish anything other than her, the tarot character. The Chris Lickner Project is not actually the name of the publisher because the stuff was actually published by Top Cow. This one was kind of confusing, so I don't really understand how this worked, but his work was actually published by Top Cow. So I don't know if that was kind of an imprint. I don't know. And then Kirby Comics actually became, I guess, Jack Kirby Comics, and that's the thing. It was like for the Return of the King, Jack Kirby, and it was his grandson Jeremy who was going to be in charge of the comic company and doing stuff like Captain Victory and the Galactic Rangers. But I couldn't find that they actually ever published anything. So yeah, not a lot of success here with these new players. And over here we got some super cool sports themed comics where they cross real athletes with, superheroes and base rangers and stuff. You got Cosmic Slam, The Fastball Express, Shortstop Squad, and Super Sluggers. Can't say I've read any of those. This is kind of a cool thing that they have in the Wizard magazines called Last Man Standing, and they take 2 characters that comic battles you never thought you'd see. So they take for instance here, a Marvel character, the Taskmaster, versus Prometheus, a DC character. And so over here they got the tail of the tape with the combatants. It has some stats about their height and weight and reach. I'm not sure exactly how they found that information back then. I wonder if they reached out to the publishers to get a rough idea. And then here it says their downfall, the circus cannon, and the nutshot. I don't understand what that is. I think maybe I understand what the nutshot is, but I'm not sure what the circus cannon is. I mean, how that's their downfall. And their role models are Dana Carvey and Bill Gates. And so I don't know enough about the characters to get that. I mean, I guess because Dana Carvey does a lot of impersonations and Taskmaster kind of impersonates fighting styles by studying them. The Bill Gates thing is way over my head. I don't get that. I don't get that because I don't know Prometheus at all outside of this thing here. And Taskmaster is considered kind of a pretty intimidating villain. And so I can understand why heroes with no powers like Hawkeye or street-level heroes like Daredevil would find him a challenge. But I never really understood the idea of putting powerless people on the same level as powerful ones. Like Batman. Batman is cool on his own, dealing with powerless villains or even guys like Killer Croc. But when he stands side by side with Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Justice League members, he just always sticks out like a sore thumb to me because all these people can do incredible things. They're super powerful, and he's just a human in a Batman, in a bat costume. It makes him look really silly, yet he's like one of the top 3 members of the team, And I know, given enough time, Batman can defeat anyone. But yeah, you just throw down, put Superman in a ring with Darkseid, and it's like, it's over. I don't care how many gadgets he has or how skilled he is a fighter, he's not going to win that battle. And unless he has kryptonite, he's not going to beat Superman either. So anyway, back to the fight. I didn't find it all that interesting, mostly because they don't really describe it in full. It just kind of, they start off like they're going to tell the story, but then it just kind of like whatever. And Taskmaster wins. I think it would have been a lot more interesting had they fully described a real battle. So over here we got the Joe Madreira Project. And if you don't know who Joe Madreira is, he's an awesome artist, goes by the name Joe Mad. And this is a play off of the Blair Witch Project, because I'm assuming that was popular around this time. And so the idea of this is that the guys over at the Cliffhanger Comics, they're kind of notorious for their books coming out late, like J. Scott Campbell's Danger Girl, or in this case, Joe Mad's Battle Chasers. So they send Paul Triolotti to go find what happened to Joe Mad. I'm just going to call him Joe Mad. So here he is chronicling his day, his journey, day one and the time. And here at 1:27 p.m., he says, getting kind of creeped out and kind of wish I was back in the Wizard bullpen trolling Nude Raider sites. And I just found that kind of interesting because, Tomb Raider Lara Croft was a big deal back around this time. And the thing was, this isn't the only magazine I saw in the day talk about the Nude Raider sites, which I guess were a big thing back then, because here he is mentioning it in this magazine. And I remember in it was a video game magazine that I have. I was trying to figure out which one it was that also talked about it. I couldn't figure out which one it was. I think it was Electronic Gaming's Monthly, but they brought it up too. So that's how big a deal it was at the time, and how big she was at the time. And also here, day one, 7 p.m., there's a couple of shots of tequila, and I'm dreaming dreams about Sarah Michelle Gellar in a kiddie pool full of baby oil. And back then, she was I guess she was still doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show. And I remember her being my first, huge celebrity crush. And it's kind of weird how your taste can change over time, because when I look at her back then, pictures of her back then, I just don't have the same feeling, not even close, now that I used to have back then. It's like your tastes of what you find attractive change. She's still a pretty woman, but it's just not really into her. It's weird how your taste can change. It's the same thing with Tia Carrera. I didn't find her attractive at all back then, and I know a lot of people did. And now watching older stuff like True Lies or Wayne's World, I do find her attractive now. And it's weird because I didn't back then. And then here on day 2 at 9:10 a.m., it says he hates Gareb Shamus. He hates him, and he hopes that Black Bull tanks. And like I had mentioned in the Project 21 stuff, Black Bull only lasted for 5 years, so he did get what he was wishing for. Not exactly sure what beef he had with him, but I'm assuming it was kind of a joke. Not so funny anymore now, is it? And then here at day 2 at 8:09 p.m., he's not happy with Wizard. He's like, thanks for nothing. And he hopes that Starlog buys you guys. Starlog was a big sci-fi magazine back then. I don't know when they went out of business. And I just looked it up, and they went out of business in 2009. I think I have a couple issues of that. I should look through them and see if it's interesting enough to do a flip through of that. So here on day 3, he eventually does get to Joe Mad's. He finds Joe Mad at Joe Mad's house, and so they talk about what Joe's been up to and how late his book is. And he says he's working on number 7 of Battle Chasers. And the thing is, the series only had 9 issues, and it never even finished. They never finished the story. But there is more news on that I'll save for later. Yeah, I know. 23 years later, there's an update to that news on Battle Chasers 10. So here we got the cover story, Game Boys, get it? It's another Andy Park drawing. I believe this was an actual cover of one of the issues. And so they're just talking here about how Tomb Raider was dominating the comic scene at the time. Orders on issue number 1 shot to 200,000 copies, and it was the number 1 comic. The weird thing about this, I can't believe nobody caught this, is that the words are cut off here. So there's parts of the sentences that I can't, there's words missing from the side here. Can't believe nobody caught that. No wonder Wizard folded. And yeah, here we already got a second reference to the Nude Raider sites, because it says, how many nude Pac-Man sites do you know? Because she's got a gazillion fans. I'm starting to think people only liked her for her looks. So here they have 5 other series that they'd like to see comics for based off of video games, or based on video games. And they got Final Fantasy VIII, and that was because that was the most fun. I was wondering why they picked Final Fantasy VIII and just called it Final Fantasy, but that was the most recent Final Fantasy game that was out at the time, which also coincidentally I am playing through at the moment. So they picked the writer Alan Moore and the artist Jay Anacleto. Resident Evil here, they got Garth Ennis and Angel Medina. Duke Nukem for writer artist, they picked Eric Larson. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, they got Warren Ellis and Rags Morales. And then Metal Gear Solid, they picked Chuck Dixon and Matt Haley. And here's another Y2K reference, but this time it's Y2K. And for that matter, who, what, where, and when. Wizard answers 2000's most important questions. Will the X-Men movie deliver? So here we got the buzz around the X-Men movie, and it's saying that they got Jean Grey as the resident scientist, new costumes, and a big name cast. And I find it funny here that when they're naming the big name people in it, it was just Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and Rebecca Romijn Stamos. And I thought it was funny that Rebecca Romijn, well, she was still Stamos at the time, was a bigger name than Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry, which, obviously it's not surprising for Hugh Jackman, but because this was his breakout role. But Halle Berry as well, I don't know how big she was at the time. I think she was more known, definitely more known than than Hugh Jackman, but I can't remember if she had anything bigger at the time. And it's just fitting as well, talking about how they didn't mention Hugh Jackman or Halle Berry, and they got Wolverine and Storm, the two characters they played, receiving the award up here. And then so they're asking, can Tomb Raider save comics? So it's like, it seems like comics have always been struggling, because here they're saying, can this Tomb Raider save comics? The comic industry, like there was, Marvel was fighting bankruptcy, like, what was it, like the 80s or something? I can't remember where it was. And again, now the American industry is struggling again. It's like they're always fighting to stay alive. And it says that Tomb Raider stunned the industry in 1999, selling a whopping 194,001 copies, and beating its closest competitor by over 60,000 issues. But yeah, it's unfortunate, because, yeah, Tomb Raider has definitely declined in popularity since then. Definitely not going to make those kind of numbers if a Tomb Raider comic came out. Is there one right now? I don't think there is. They say, is Rising Stars the next Watchmen? I'm going to have to say no, because I've never heard of Rising Stars outside of reading this magazine. And again, 23 years later, nobody's talking about Rising Stars, so I don't think so. Will Cliffhanger survive 2000? See, so here's more about Cliffhanger. There's J. Scott Campbell. Here's more about Cliffhanger not being able to meet their deadlines. And it says here, Campbell has issue 7 of Danger Girl tentatively planned for March of 2000. It came out in February 2001, almost a year later. So yeah, you can see how bad these guys are at hitting their deadlines and stuff. And you got the 2000 event line here, where they predict what's going to happen month by month. They got Jim Shooter starting a comic company in January, and then Jim Shooter also starts one in June. And you got Rob Liefeld starting a company in April, and then again in October. And then here in December it says Jim Shooter and Rob Liefeld call it quits and open up a TGI Fridays. I don't know the story. I don't know if Jim Shooter and Rob Liefeld are known for starting companies a lot. Thought it was kind of funny though. I also like this one here in May. Top Cow holds press conference claiming they're not just about TNA. Announce 3 new titles. Turkey's done. I don't really get that one. My shirt's wet. And look at the size of these breasts. And over here in February, they got a new reality-based Credible Hulk series debuts. And then here in January, well, I guess since this came out in February, they would have known if this stuff, since this is the February issue, they would have known whether this January stuff happened or not. But it says George Lucas buys Iowa, and I don't think that happened. Oh, here it says, will Kevin Smith write Green Arrow? And he did. He wrote the first 15 issues of Volume 3. And I think the first one came out in 2001. So over here we got 2 articles about can Spider-Man be saved and will Chris Claremont kill the X-Men? And so both here are struggling because they're talking about how Chris Claremont, isn't doing as well as his iconic stories like Days of Future Past and Dark Phoenix saga. So his books since then have not been doing that great. They all suffer from the same problems. Pages getting cluttered with verbose word balloons and over-descriptive captions, turning fans off. Dangling plot lines, a tendency to resuscitate pet third-tier characters or rehashed X-characters have also plagued the latest stories. And then over here, I guess a lot of people weren't happy with Spider-Man, and they're talking about how Spider-Man was the greatest soap opera in comics. Peter could never make his personal life work versus his Spider-Man life. The appeal of Spider-Man for me was that his life was a disaster, and only when he was Spider-Man could he cut loose and have fun. And I guess things were just going too well for him here because he's got like a cushy job and at a lab or something. I haven't read the Clone Saga, but I hear people weren't overly thrilled with that. And what did it say here? It says 7 years, and after... Well, it says writer Howard Mackey's written Spider-Man for 7 years, and after the Clone Wars saga and the fizzling revamp, it's time for change. So, okay, so the Clone Saga didn't last 7 years. Just Wizard Q&A with Garth Ennis. Here's that Hitman character I was talking about earlier that I thought they were referring to Agent 47. Looks very generic. So Preview 2000. So here they go over some of the bigger books that are coming out. Here they talk about Battle Chasers. It says the book goes bi-monthly with issue number 7. At least that's what Joe Mad says. And the thing is, it did not. With, like I was saying, the slow releases of these Cliffhanger books, they released 4 Battle Chaser issues in 1998, 2 in 1999, none in 2000, and then 3 in 2001. So the bi-monthly thing never happened, and issue 7 came out in January of 2001. So almost, again, with, I guess, similar with Well, I guess he didn't say when it was coming out this year. So, like with Danger Girl, J. Scott Campbell said it was going to come out in March. Here, there's no set date. But issue number 7 came out in January of 2001, issue 8 came out in May of 2001, and issue 9 came out in September of 2001. And like I said earlier, they never finished the series, and it fittingly ended on a cliffhanger. And it was just coincidentally when I was looking into all this stuff that I found out that it was announced in February of 2023 that issue 10 would finally be coming out, like 23 years later, 22 years later? Yeah, because the last issue came out in 2001. Yeah, so 22 years later, the issue 10 will come out on June 10th of 2023. That's what they're saying right now. And I saw the cover. I'll put it up here. The cover, it looks good. It's Joe Mad. I like his style looks similar, but more refined or something. I really like it. But the inside work will be done by this guy named Ludo Lullaby, and his artwork looks good too, but it's not the same as Joe Mad's. And there are also supposed to be variant covers by several other artists, including J. Scott Campbell and Humberto Ramos, who were co-founders of Cliffhanger alongside Joe Mad. So it's kind of nice that he got the old gang back together to do covers for his new book, or the new issue of his old book. So I don't really know what Joe Mad's been up to all that time to distract him from getting issue 10 out, but the only Battle Chasers thing that I've seen come out in regards to other media is the video game Battle Chasers Night War, which I thought was really good. And apparently it was also announced a couple years ago that the John Wick creator is making a TV series out of the IP. And I'm going to tell you now, it's probably going to suck. It's going to have to be modernized, meaning, for one thing, you won't get Red Monica that looks like this. She'll probably end up getting the Faye Valentine Netflix treatment. But just covering her up doesn't mean the show will be bad. Certainly doesn't help it. But then there'll be also all the race swapping and gender swapping and other identity politics that are mandatory in Western entertainment now. So most likely, Red Monica will either be a gay black man or a black trans woman in the new series. Over here they got Captain America, and they're talking about this is the hate monger here, and I didn't realize this. I had heard of the hate monger before. I don't think I'd ever read any issues with him in it, but it says that he's a hateful clone of Adolf Hitler. And again, it was just coincidentally I was reading old issues of Fantastic Four, and issue 21 of the very first volume, so like just 21 issues into the series. That's when Hate Monger was introduced, and yeah, sure enough, at the end of the issue, they discover that they unmask him, and it's a clone, or it's Adolf Hitler. I don't think they know it's a clone, or they think maybe it's a double, or maybe it's really him. And I didn't know it was his premiere, the issue he premiered in, because I thought the Hate Monger, especially being a clone of Adolf Hitler, seemed more fitting for Captain America comics. That he would have probably got his first appearance in a Captain America book. And down here is Danger Girl. So they're talking about issue number 7, and like I said, they said he was aiming for March of 2000, but it came out in February of 2001, so they missed that deadline by about a year. And I think they mentioned here, that there's going to be the next Danger Girl issue, most undoubtedly a new number 1, won't see the light of day until late 2000 or maybe even early 2001. Your thirst for Danger Girl next year will have to be whetted by assorted miniseries and specials. So even though, the Danger Girl number 7 came out in 2001, there was a Danger Girl special called Danger Girl Special, a one-shot that came out in 2000. And then the next issues that came out was a 2-part miniseries called Danger Girl Kamikaze that did come out in 2001 as well. It wasn't drawn by J. Scott Campbell. And to me, it's not really a Danger Girl comic if J. Scott Campbell doesn't draw the comic himself. But I really love this original Danger Girl series, the issues 1 to 7, and it's probably my favorite graphic novel of all time, or collection, or whatever you want to call it. It's definitely the most memorable in my mind when I think about all the comic series, all the books I've read. No stories really stick out in my mind of anything outside of the original 7 issues of Danger Girl. I think it's fantastic. And here they're talking about Fantastic Four, and look they're all wearing like Dr. Doom cloaks, because they're with him for some reason. And it says here that the Frightful Four will reemerge with the Wizard, the Trapster, the Punisher, not Frank Castle, and a yet-to-be-named villain. So I looked it up, and it's a character called Punisher, and it's a robot, some sort of weird robot I've never seen before. And the yet-to-be-named villain was She-Thing. Boy, is she ugly. So here is Fathom, or Michael Turner's Fathom. I was talking about that earlier. I just, maybe half a year ago or so, I was able to buy, the first story arc in a collection. I think it was, first 9 or 10 issues. And it does mention here Fathom number 12 to 14. I do have those individually. They do crossover with the Witchblade and Tomb Raider. I just decided to pull out the issues here. There's the first issue of the crossover. There's the second one. And there's the third one. And like I was saying about not remembering storylines and stuff, I've probably read these. I just can't remember a thing about them. Oh, I thought she was going to be on the back. I thought Lara Croft was on the back of this. But instead it's an ugly dwarf. Let's just make sure she's in here. That's not her. That's not her. Alright, there, we finally found her. She only appeared in issue number 2 of the crossover. Oh, yeah, those are her glasses. So I guess that's her first appearance there. There she is. I clearly remember this storyline very, very well. And it mentions here that 20th Century Fox is supposed to have an animated Fathom movie for 2002. And so that never happened. But I also found online that James Cameron was supposed to direct a Fathom feature film for 2002. And it wouldn't surprise me because of how much he loves the ocean. He's always making these water movies like Titanic, Avatar, The Way of Water, Aliens of the Deep, Ghosts of the Abyss, and Expedition Bismarck. The last 3 of those being documentaries. But still, he really loves the ocean. So that seems fitting that he would have been willing and eager to do a movie about Fathom, which, if you don't know, is about mostly underwater stuff. And she has like water powers and stuff like that. And there's a race of beings that live underwater. And then I also learned there was another attempt for a live action movie in 2010, and it was supposed to star Megan Fox as Aspen. Now that I would have loved to see. And so this is what it might have looked like using AI. Also in that article, I learned that she was also tied to playing Red Sonja in a Red Sonja movie back then. And again, I would have loved to see that. And again, this is what it would have looked like with the help of AI. And then here we got the Incredible Hulk. They talk about him having a new aspect of his personality coming out. And sure enough, there is a new aspect in there, and it's called there's no real name for it, and it looks like it's some sort of snake Hulk. He seems to refer to himself as, imply that he's the devil or something. So even when I looked in my Marvel encyclopedia, it was in quotations referring to him as kind of the devil Hulk, but I don't think he has a real name. I think it's just supposed to be kind of like the evil side of the Hulk that's inside of him. So here's that encyclopedia I was telling you about. I think it's pretty funny. Here you got Mr. Fantastic stretching down to punch Dr. Doom in the face. But here in the Hulk entry, this is actually from that issue number 12 here, and it says here that there's the different personalities, the extremely intelligent but egocentric Professor Hulk, and even a Devil Hulk. It is capitalized, so maybe that actually is what he's called, and representing all of the evil within Banner's soul. That was the new aspect that was introduced in issue 12. So over here they're talking about the JLA books, which stands for Justice League of America, I assume. And they're talking about how they're going to whittle down the roster, and at the end of the World War III arc, the League will have 2 dead members. And so I kind of looked in, I skimmed through them to figure out who they were. I tried to look into it. Again, if you plan to read that and you don't want it spoiled, then I guess plug your ears for 20 seconds. But yeah, as far as I can tell, I think the 2 characters were Aztec and Zoriel, and I had never heard of them until I looked into this series. So I guess they weren't huge losses, because it wasn't like it was Superman or Wonder Woman. And so here they have the Spider books, because they talk about Peter Parker Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man, but I feel like, because I remember when I was collecting comics back then, it felt like there were like 4 or 5 different Spider-Man books. Maybe I was wrong at that time. Maybe there were only the 2, but anyway, it says they're talking about Green Goblin will return, and it won't be who anyone expects. And so yeah, if you don't want spoilers, plan to read these old ones. You find out who is this new Green Goblin in issue 18 of Peter Parker Spider-Man, and if you don't want to know who it is, plug your ears for the next 5 seconds, because I'm about to say it. And so it ends up being Norman Osborn's son, Harry Osborn. I'm just kind of wondering if that was his first time being, I don't think that was his first time being the Green Goblin, but it wasn't that big a surprise when I figured out when I learned who it was. This is a series I'd like to look into, steampunk, because it's got Chris Bachalo as the artist. I remember him doing a lot of X-Men comics, and I really like his style. And then we got Thor over here. They're talking about Dan Jurgens wanting to do a crossover with Captain America and do like a 4-part series with the Captain America series or something. And it was kind of funny because I looked through it and I couldn't find in the time that Dan Jurgens was writing or within the year of this article coming up that they did do a crossover with Captain America. They crossed over with other characters. But the thing that I found was funny, because he's like, I've talked to the writer of Captain America, laughs Jurgens, who also writes Cap. So if we can work everything out, I'm trying to do a crossover. And that's the thing, is it's just, he crossovers with other characters, but he couldn't cross over with Cap. You'd think that a guy who's writing both series would be able to find a way to intertwine the characters he's currently writing for. If anyone was able to do it, it would be the person writing for both series. But no, he wasn't able to do it. I don't know why. Maybe it was a decision from higher on up. I don't know. But yeah, it says John Romita Jr. And yeah, that's clearly John Romita Jr.'s art style. I'm really not a big fan of his work. I really don't like his lines for like shading or whatever. And everyone has such a square-like features to them. He does seem to do okay with Spider-Man. Like, this is also John Romita Jr.'s artwork over here. I don't know. Sometimes it's okay, but I don't know. I mean, I've seen worse. And he also, his dad, John Romita Sr., was also a comic book artist. But you know what? I'll throw up an image just so we can see. I'll compare it side by side. And then so with the Wolverine books, we got, we're picking up rumblings that Wolverine will play a very key role in the upcoming X-Men movie. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. Because he was the focus of the movie, and he ended up being the face of the franchise of all the X-Men movies, and he got his own spin-offs. He's the only character, am I correct in that? Yes, he's the only X-Men character that got like his own standalone, well, not standalone, but solo movies. So here we got casting call. Wizard cast the Avengers movie. And honestly, you know, they did a pretty good job in terms of looks. They got Tom Selleck as Iron Man, Kevin Sorbo as Thor, Howie Long as Captain America, Woody Harrelson as Hawkeye, Stephen Collins as Giant Man, Catherine Bell as the Wasp. I loved her back in Jag, watching Jag. Melina Kanakaridis as Scarlet Witch, Peter Weller as Vision. And you know, they did a decent job of picking people who look like them, but there's more to looks when it comes to playing a character. And it's kind of like, did they just cast her because she's got like the similar type of crimpy curly hair? And yeah, he's got kind of like the same look, but I mean, you got like a football player to play Captain America, a guy from Seventh Heaven to play Giant Man. Like, I don't know. And it seems like you're getting a lot of TV actors to play movie characters, like TV. You know, he did Cheers and stuff too. Not saying that TV actors can't do movie characters, but you know, usually they kind of stick to their lanes. This movie, I think, would have really stunk. Even though I do, like I said, loved Catherine Bell from back in the day with Jag. And then they got some more here. They got Wes Bentley as Justice, Janet Gunn as Warbird, George Clooney as Wonder Man, Nikki Cox as Firestar. I like that casting there. Pete Postlethwaite as Jarvis, Terrence Stamp as Immortus Kang, Billy Zane as Loki, Christopher Walken as Ultron. That would have been weird. Jeremy Piven as Grim Reaper, and Sean Bean as Baron Zemo. That's a lot of villains for one movie. But I don't really see George Clooney. I mean, I wouldn't want him to play Wonder Man. You know, again, kind of looks like him. I don't think he would take that role, because Wonder Man isn't really like the top bill. So he wouldn't want to play like 5th, 6th, 7th fiddle to the rest of the team, to the big names. And so here we got coming attractions, Hollywood and TV stuff that you care about. And here they're talking about Batman projects like Year One and Batman Beyond. And it's funny here because they say here, Wayne Manor. Does Kevin Smith's buddy have the right stuff to play a young Dark Knight? Well, apparently not, but he did have the stuff to play an older Dark Knight, maybe one of the oldest that we've seen in live action television or movies and stuff. It's also funny, again, talking about George Clooney, that he says that George Clooney leading that the Bat film franchise hit the skids in the summer of 1997 when the critically panned camp fest Batman and Robin bombed. Since then, speculation has run rampant over the future of the series, leading most recent Batman George Clooney to declare the franchise destroyed. I don't think there will be another Batman. I'm under contract to do it, but I don't think Warner Bros. will do it again. I really think I buried the franchise. I was surprised to see them to admit that. And then Chris O'Donnell says he thinks it's time to reinvent the franchise, saying, if I were Warner Bros., I'd have a new cast and a new look, which eventually does happen with Batman Begins. Yeah, because over here it says Warner publicist Jeff Walker insists there will be a Batman 5, but you won't see it before 2001, and that's true. Batman Begins came out in 2005. And so over here we have a bat poll of who they'd want to see play a Batman for the Batman Beyond feature. And Keanu Reeves won with 20%. Funny thing is, for write-in votes, Will Friedle had almost 19%. So yeah, I guess he was second to Keanu Reeves just on write-ins alone. And you're like, Will Friedle, I'll put a picture of him, was from Boy Meets World, and he's the voice of Terry McGinnis. So he's the voice of Batman from Batman Begins. And again, he's a TV actor, so I don't know if I could see him. You're kind of like, what's the difference? Acting's acting, but you know, there's just something. Sometimes you can see people that are like, yeah, they feel TV. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but he's. I really liked him in Boy Meets World, but clearly he was never like a leading man, big name draw kind of guy. So it was funny though that it was nice though that the fans loved him, that they wanted him. Enough write-in votes came in for him to be second to Keanu Reeves. And it was also very weird that Ray Park, Mr. Darth Maul himself, was also got a write-in, at least one write-in. So here's some more stuff on the X-Men movie. And they mention here that Ray Park, they were shooting in Toronto, and Ray Park got a lawsuit immediately upon his arrival in Toronto for blowing off an appearance at a sci-fi convention that he had committed to. I wonder which convention that was. And I think I've heard about this before, but it says, I was reading this here, and it says that Scottish actor Dougray Scott was supposed to play Wolverine, but he couldn't get out of Mission Impossible 2. It kind of makes you wonder, though, like alternate realities, what would have happened had Dougray Scott been able to, which, by the way, that's the weirdest name, Dougray, had he been able to play the role of Wolverine, what would the franchise and what would have their careers, him and Hugh Jackman, gone? Obviously, this would have been Hugh Jackman's big breakthrough role, so how would his career have changed? Would he still have made himself a big name actor, or would he always just be this unknown? More like, I guess, in the way of Dougray Scott, would it be somebody that nobody really, like, they've seen, but they don't really know his name? And would Dougray Scott have done as good a job with Wolverine? Would he have gotten his own spin-offs movies? Like, would he have been the face of the franchise? I just don't see it. But because he's not that big a name actor right now. But maybe had he played that role and people love the movie as much, then maybe he'd be the household name that Hugh Jackman is. Would the series have been even better? I don't think so, but it is kind of funny if you could look at parallel universes. It's an interesting thing to think about. And also it says here that Bryan Singer wanted to put... Originally, I'd put Wolverine in Alaska. Then I moved up here, and it was like, we should just stick to basics. And we shoot in Canada, we should have Canadian hero. That's like the only cool Canadian hero that Canada has. And you want to make him Alaskan. Come on, give us something up here. But it's like, why do they call... did they just do this for alliteration, an Alaskan assassin? Because Wolverine, not an assassin, so... And so here at Glitch in the Forest, they're talking about the casting of for Anakin Skywalker in the Attack of the Clones, and there was a mistake, I guess, that went out saying that there was an open casting call, meaning anyone could just audition, but that's not, I guess it was a mistake, and it was actually you needed to have like an agent to, you would not be considered without professional representation. And the one thing is kind of weird just because I thought he was pretty good in the movie, Jake Lloyd. And that seemed to be really the only thing he ever did. And I think I remember hearing a story about him kind of blaming Star Wars for his life's path. And because I think he ended up getting arrested and stuff. And it's maybe kids kind of teased him for being Anakin, and I was just like, you got to play Anakin Skywalker in a Star Wars movie, Being in a Star Wars movie was cool back then, not anymore, but back then, that would have been something to hang your hat on, I know people have mixed feelings about the movie, but still, it's too bad for him. Over here in the Hollywood Buzz, they're talking about be on the lookout for a Spider-Man movie in summer of 2001, Blade 2, and followed by Fantastic Four, and possibly a Hulk. So I can't remember when the Blade 2 came out, but Spider-Man did not come out in 2001, neither did Fantastic Four or the Hulk. And then it says they're also looking for their lower properties, making movies for Damage Control and Shang-Chi. Well, the Shang-Chi eventually happened, like 20 years later after this article, but Damage Control, nothing's come from that. They're also talking about a X-Men series here in All Things X that's supposed to be a CGI animated show that's supposed to coincide with the the feature film's release. I don't believe that ever happened, and the only animated show or whatever that came out at that time was X-Men Evolution, but it was not CGI. It's kind of a funny article here about Kevin Smith back when he, well, at least didn't seem to be a fraud. There's a whole bunch of people picketing his movie, protesting his movie Dogma, and so he went in with all the protesters and protested his own movie as a joke. It was all in good fun, you know. He said something about him not holding any ill will against them, and yeah, he doesn't feel the slightest bit of negativity. Yeah, he says, they just have a different set of values for me. They seem nice enough though. However, I'd be lying if I wasn't disappointed that they didn't have any donuts or coffee out there. And yeah, because they were saying that they thought this was a movie that was against religion, but he viewed it as a love letter to faith. He seemed much cooler back then than he is now. You know, to be able to be a good sport about people protesting his film. Over here, trailers, they got Wonder Woman wrangles a writer. It says they got a movie, Wonder Woman movie written by John Cohen and possibly starring Sandra Bullock. And obviously that did not happen. But the thing is, I remember reading several years ago Joss Whedon's leaked Wonder Woman script, and that was pretty bad. So I don't know where he fit in the picture or whatever happened to this one. Obviously it got shelved until Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman came out in 2017. So then here's some basic trainings on how to draw the WB animated style. So if you're interested in drawing for the show, there you go. And then they even threw in Cap, Wolf, and Spide. So here we got a drawing board contest. This is kind of neat where people send in art, and the thing is they get the winner got to do, I think, an 8-page story in Lady Pendragon. I can't say I'm very familiar with that comic, but oh yeah, it's snagging an 8-page Lady Pendragon story for an upcoming issue. And so the winner was this one, which I'm assuming that this looks professionally done. And oh wait, no, I guess that was her work. Okay, so that's the actual professional work, but I guess that was her artwork, that one. It is good, but I'd say the most comic ready. Like, I mean, this feels like the most comic style. Maybe this one here. But it's also got the coloring. You know, it's got the nice comic coloring. This one's got the only one that really has a background. Lots of detail. This one I think is the most detailed. When you look at all the armor scales and stuff, you probably can't see it. I mean, they're all pretty good. This one is good, but more for like, it's not professional. It's like amateur good. But the other three I could see, not a great face on that one. Honestly, the face on this one's kind of okay too. But I mean, this one looks more realistic, and this one, I don't know that. But yeah, I mean, I've seen worse art and faces that get into professional comic books than this. So, but I think my favorite is that one. So here we got the toy chest, a whole bunch of Simpsons toys. And that's the thing, I wonder, like, this was 2000, so the show had been on for what? 11 years or so, because it was 1989, I believe, The Simpsons came on, the first season came on the air. So yeah, I guess it was 11 seasons. So yeah, this was 11th season, I think, was still pretty good. But it's hard to believe that we're talking about 23 years later and the show is still on the air, and it's been garbage for more than probably half that time. I'd say even at this point, more than half of the show's been on the air, 30-something years, and I'd say more than half of it has been garbage. Every season that comes out continues to dilute how good the series was, because now more of the series has been mediocre to garbage than it was good. And even the first season and a half wasn't that good, especially the first season. Whenever people quote The Simpsons, it's old Simpsons. They're not quoting the new stuff. And it's kind of thing that's amazing. It was just really good for maybe 10 to 11 seasons or so. So yeah, you know, I think that the show didn't completely suck by the time these came out. And you got some Star Wars figures here, Wonder Woman Barbie doll. And this one I thought was kind of neat. This was the Homemade Heroes of the Month. This is a fan-made action figure. It's maybe more like a Frankenstein type of thing, because he made the Kingdom Come Superman using a Toy Biz Gladiator head and the Superman animated cartoon bodies, and then all he did was swap the head and change the painting on it. So yeah, I guess he won this Iron Fist bust, and yeah, I guess this Homemade Heroes contest is a regular thing, so that's cool. This one, I think thing was kind of interesting. Was this here was a poster for the Sandman Dream Hunters, Neil Gaiman's graphic novel, and the artwork looked very familiar. And so yeah, it was Yoshitaka Amano, who is famous for the Final Fantasy covers he did. And that was I wasn't big into Final Fantasy up until 7, and part of it was because I didn't like his artwork for promotions and stuff, because I don't know, it's just seems very pale, muted, and I don't know, I don't like it. But yeah, he was one of the reasons why I actually didn't get interested in the Final Fantasy games, because had they had much more appealing artwork to me, maybe I would have given them a shot. So here we go. Finally, trying to get to the video games. We finally get there on page 92. It's kind of funny here for the 2000 preview they got. I always find this funny. I mean, back then it was a big deal, but now it's kind of like, oh, really? Whatever. So he's like, for starters, because he's talking about the PS2 could very well leave all other systems in the dust. For starters, the front-loading PS2 will include basic support for playing DVDs. It's like, really? Wow, DVD. And then Project X, the truth is out there. The console industry is abuzz with speculation about a rumored machine in the works at Microsoft dubbed the Xbox. So this is kind of cool because the Xbox wasn't even really, like, this is just the whispers about it right now. Like, I guess it's more than whispers if they have all these details. It also has, well, like here they say it's going to blow other systems away because it's got a DVD drive. Can play DVDs. This one even mentions it has a DVD drive. I don't know what they're talking about here. But the thing is, it does say, interestingly, the system is expected to follow the PC model business for software, meaning publishers will not be required to pay a licensing fee to Microsoft to release games for the machine. That could spell serious trouble for Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, and Dolphin. Okay, so the GameCube was still being called Dolphin back then. Stay tuned. And so, yes, I'm going out on a limb here and saying that business model never happened. Can't say I've ever looked into it, but I'm pretty sure that would have been one of the things people would have been talking about for years, about how, people don't need to pay licensing fees to Microsoft to release their games, as a talking point to produce games for the Xbox. So yeah, I'm pretty sure like 99.99999% that's never happened. Here they talk about THQ announcing a game about the Evil Dead called Evil Dead Ashes to Ashes, and it will be a survival horror game in the vein of Resident Evil, featuring the voice of Bruce Campbell. So yeah, I looked it up and I couldn't find any game that came out for the because it said it was for the PlayStation and the PC, and I couldn't find any game of Evil Dead that ever came out for the PlayStation, and especially no game I could find ever called Ashes to Ashes. There were some other ones, Evil Dead games for the PlayStation 2, but again, they were not called Ashes to Ashes. Phantom Menace video game. Don't remember a lot about this, but when I saw this screenshot here, I was like, oh, that takes me back. I remember that. I remember this exact scene here, this exact moment about that. Do you still want that T14 and your options? Yeah, I don't think that game was really great. I think it even says here it's not great, but it's okay. That Star Wars fans will probably like it. Here I thought that was an interesting kind of contest for the Dawn half issue. I don't know what Dawn is. Outside of this promotion, I've never really come across Dawn. And so I decided to read what this is about. And it's kind of weird that they just have legs here. And if you win this contest, you'll win the exclusive half issue, or half issue, where you find out what happens between right after Dawn, Lucifer's Halo, and Dawn, Return of the Goddess miniseries. So it's kind of weird because you have to win a contest to get a book to figure out what happened in between. And so people who want to know what happened in between, if they don't win the contest, will never know, I guess, unless they look it up online, because it's only available here. You can't get it in stores. Super limited, so wait too long and you'll suffer for it. Once this offer expires, it is gone forever. So Dawn's rules. I don't even know if this is it did expire 23 years ago. So, okay, I guess it's not the coupon. So yeah, it's not a contest. It's just if you want the issue. So here's this anime called Nazca. I don't know anything about it, but the one thing I did find was interesting was that they have the prices. Because back then we used to release anime in like these DVD or VHS volumes, and you'd get like 3 episodes per volume, and kind of silly, and especially because they were pretty expensive. But here they have the same volume for whatever this show is, VHS sub and VHS dub, and one was $24.98 and the other one was $29.98, and it was the subbed that was cheaper than the dubbed. And I found that weird because I thought it would cost more money to make the dub because you got to hire a second set of voice actors to do all the lines, you know, to have the English voice actors doing all the lines. So I thought that would have cost more, but it's $5 less than the subbed version. And then we have the Manga Mania. So they just kind of cover here cool Japanese comic and animation stuff you'll want to buy. Geo Breeder's book, Volume 1, and this one is Dragon Wars. And they got Sailor Venus, and then we got Shugi Yugi. Now that I've said that out loud, I think I've heard of that before. It's Gunsmith Cats. Bad Trip. Never heard of that one. This is called Kia Asamiya. Never heard of it. Most of the stuff outside of Bubblegum Crisis and Sailor Moon, I've never heard of that stuff. And then here's some VHSs for Pokemon. I think these are pictures or posters or something for Oh My Goddess. And then Gundam 0079 trade paperback there. Ugh, Mark Waid. I like this. I like this art style. I don't know necessarily for comics. Like this one's more looks more for comics here, but this looks more for like, I don't know, promotional work or like a fantasy movie from the 70s or 80s. Just don't like his stupid like highlights and his bangs there, but she looks awesome. So top 10 times the Watcher interfered. So here they're listing off situations in which, because for those who don't know, this is the Watcher, or he's part of a race called the Watchers or whatever, and his name is like Uatu, I don't know. And he just lives on the blue area of the moon, and he just observes humanity. That's what all these Watchers do. They just observe stuff, not supposed to interfere, except for that rogue one called Aaron the Rogue Watcher, which again, coincidentally, I was just reading a Fantastic Four issue from like, I don't know, the 80s or 90s that had him kidnap Alicia Masters, the Thing's blind girlfriend. And yeah, if you see here, most of these, the first 4 and then the 10th one are Fantastic Four. And so that's the thing is like, you're making a list of the times he interfered, which he's not supposed to. They put a what if. And the what ifs, that should not count, because a what if is a what if scenario. Like, what if this happened? It's not canonical. It's never happened, so that shouldn't count at all. Idiots. And then here they just do their picks for the month. The must-read comics shipping in January. Okay, well this is the February issue, so I don't understand what's going on. Is this one of those magazines where it's like February, it says February, but it actually came out in like January? I don't know. I don't know if that's how most magazines work, but that's kind of dumb. Book of the month, Earth X number 11. I think the character profile for Uatu, the Watcher. I thought the thing here that was pretty funny was that Dumb and Dumber, an unorthodox philosophy once spread like a plague among my brothers. The only way to not interfere in the planets they studied was to not observe, and the only way to not observe was to not exist. So several Watchers willed themselves unalive in the ultimate fulfillment of our oath. In Quasar number 15. They willed themselves to be unalive. Now that's commitment. And so here we got Market Watch, X-Men Movie Mania hits, recent hits lay seeds for upcoming explosion. And so they show the market shares, and Marvel Comics is at 32.3% and DC is 31.74%. That's really close. I didn't realize that they always refer to them as the big two, but I always thought Marvel was, well, I mean, I think DC led for a period, but then I think Marvel overtook them, and I thought it was a bigger gap than that, but look at how close it was back in 2000. And then Image was at 14%, all other publishers at 16%, and then Dark Horse was at 5.48%. Here we got the top 10 creators. So these are the ones that Wizard's top 10 creators list are derived from a nationwide retailer survey. Artists includes pencilers and painters. So they got Alan Moore at number 1. Dan Jurgens is number 8. So not only was he doing Thor and Cap, but I guess he was also doing Tomb Raider as well. So there's Alex Ross. He doesn't look anything like I thought he would look like. Oh, there's Michael Turner, number 1. J. Scott Campbell. Andy Park, Tomb Raider guy. I also like Laniel F. Yu. I like his artwork too. And so the top 10 comics, you got Wizard by staying in touch with hundreds of retailers throughout the country, keeps a close eye on the country's hottest back issues. These are the books ringing the registers this month. So here's the back issues that people are ordering, and the number 1 is Elseworlds 80-page giant special number 1, followed by Wolverine number 145. I think I have that one. And then here, number 10, you got Tomb Raider and Witchblade. I feel like I do have a Tomb Raider Witchblade comic, but I don't think it has that cover, but I thought I had this one. It's a new Tomb Raider series is almost here. Hooray, guns, huge boobs, symbiotic fungus stuff, huge boobs. And to celebrate, readers are seeking out this 1997 one-shot. So this issue is 3 years old. Well, that's what us industry folks call synergy. Actually, nobody's used the word synergy since 1986 or so, but hey, huge boobs. And then so here was okay, so this is the February issue. I think it came out in January, and they're doing the November top 100. Okay. And look at that, Tomb Raider, yeah, Andy Park cover from that article is #1. And Tomb Raider #1 ousts the X-Men from the top slot for the first time in 11 months. And yeah, I've always heard that, I mean, like, was it the X-Men books? I don't know, they seem to do pretty well. I hear the Spider-Man books were always doing pretty well, and the Batman books. But when I look at this, yeah, like after Tomb Raider, it's all X-mutant related stuff. The next three, Uncanny X-Men, and then Wolverine. Then JLA and Avengers spawn Daredevil. And then look at that, the Danger Girl special. That's what I was talking about. It was, okay, so it was already out? So yeah, it was already out, and it was number 10. People liked Danger Girl back then. And then Fathom number 10, look at that. That's also was popular. Fathom and Danger Girl. And here they got the looking back. What topped the charts 5 years ago? #1, Amazing X-Men, #1. Astonishing X-Men, #1. Weapon X, #1. Generation Next X, #1. Gambit and the Externals, #1. Factor X, #1. X-Man, #1. Spawn, #28. Excalibur, #1. And X-Men Chronicles, #1. So, yes, hard to believe that it's been 5 years since the Age of Apocalypse, the parallel timeline story arc that commandeered the X universe and the industry's sales for 4 months. In retrospect, Age of Apocalypse was one of the post-Claremont era's most successful storylines. Yeah, I was like, really, I was thinking for a second here, why are these all #1s? I guess it was a huge crossover event for Age of Apocalypse. But yeah, look at that. Everything is X-Men related, mutant related, except for Spawn #8. Well, actually, I don't know what Generation Next is, but it has an X in it, so I'm assuming it's mutant related. And so here's Joseph Michael Linsner. He sold this Censorship Sucks artwork. Sold for $4,040 for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. What? So they have the ups and downs of the issues, their prices going up or down. And they got Sonic the Hedgehog #1 still commands about $30. I have that issue. Yeah, I collected the Sonic comics for several years. And then it says here, all the Star Wars, you can... The original Star Wars comics, set of 107 issues of the Marvel series are going for the low package price of $107, so they're just $1 each. And it says, also the inevitable post-movie slump has struck Star Wars. I'm just like, really? I mean, Phantom Menace just came out in 1999, like in May or something of 1999, and it's already slumping? They hadn't had a Star Wars movie in 16 years. Why would it just suddenly the interest go so quickly? And then so here is how to use the price guide, and a lot of the rest of this magazine is just price related stuff. You can go through back issues and see what they're worth. It reminds me of that Spider-Man meme. So yeah, they give 42 pages to the price guide at the back of the book. That's a lot. Here again we got preview for Wizard 102. Fathom, cover art by Michael Turner. See, on sale in February. Oh, and that's going to be the March issue. Okay, so yeah, I guess they're doing that thing. So I guess this was out in January. I see, that's just confusing. It's like, oh, the February issue is out in January. And here they got a list of all the shows and conventions for 2000, I guess. Well, maybe not all of them, but yeah, because it only seems to go to April. I guess just the known ones at the time. And I got some trivia here, censored dingling, and then he's the designer, I guess, of the magazine for the layouts, I suppose. Yeah, he does the layouts. Basically everything you see in Wizard, Toy Fair, and Inquest. He also writes the casting call department each month. Oh, that's cool. And then Who Watches the Watcher? And then you got the Watcher here, and then Galactus shows up and kicks him in the nuts. And the pain is cosmic. So there you go. That was Wizard #101. Hope you enjoyed it, and it was a different change of pace, I guess, from the video game magazines. I have plans for another one that when I was looking through some old stuff, I was like, oh, maybe I could do a read through of this. And I will keep it at a mystery that you will have to wait for. So until next time, later.